The sun was hot that day. People rushed through the crowded street, holding their bags and phones, not looking at anyone. Cars honked, vendors shouted, but no one noticed the little boy standing near the footpath. His name was Ion. He was only 10 years old. He wore an old shirt, a little too big for his body, and dusty pants that looked like they hadn't been washed in days. His shoes didn't match. One was torn, and the other had no laces. In front of him sat a small cardboard box. Inside the box were toys. Not new toys, not shiny ones. These were used old toys. Some had missing parts. Some had faded colors. A small plastic car, a rubber ball, a stuffed rabbit with one eye, and a broken robot that didn't talk anymore. Still, Ion lined them up neatly. He waited patiently, standing straight. Whenever someone walked past, he softly said, "Toys, very cheap, please buy one." But most people didn't stop. Some glanced at him and kept walking. Others frowned, thinking he was just another street kid trying to make money. But Ion didn't shout. He didn't beg. He just stood there, holding on to hope. After 2 hours, he had sold only one toy, a little plastic duck, to a child who cried until his mother gave in. He earned 20 rupees. Still, Ion didn't sit down. He wiped sweat from his forehead and stood tall again. Then, someone finally noticed. A woman named Sarah walked by. She was in her early 30s, wearing simple clothes, holding a grocery bag in one hand and a bottle of water in the other. She had just come from work and was tired, but when she saw the boy and his box of toys, something made her stop. She didn't know why. Maybe it was the way he stood, quiet, serious, different from others. She turned around, walked back to him, and asked gently, "Why are you selling toys, little one?" Ion looked up at her. His eyes were large and brown. He smiled softly, but then he said something that made Sarah freeze. "It's not for me," he said. "It's for someone who can't speak anymore." Sarah blinked. She didn't understand at first. "Who can't speak?" she asked. Ayan looked down. "My sister." Now Sarah looked closer. The toys weren't random. They were soft, safe, the kind you'd give a child who needs comfort. She picked up a worn teddy bear from the box. It had a little red heart stitched on its chest. "This one's cute," she smiled. Ion nodded. "It used to be hers." Sarah looked at him again. "Where is she now?" Ion looked toward the end of the street. He didn't speak. Sarah bought the teddy bear. She gave him 100 rupees. "Keep the change," she said. But Ion shook his head. "No, miss. I can give you another toy with it. Maybe this ball." Sarah smiled sadly. "You're very kind." Still curious, she asked again, "Why won't your sister speak?" This time, Ion gave a slow answer. "She used to talk. She used to laugh. All the time. But not now." Sarah felt something tighten in her chest. This wasn't just a child playing shop. There was a story behind those toys, and it was deep. She wanted to ask more, but Ion was packing up. "Are you going home?" she asked. He nodded. "Can I walk with you?" she said gently. Ayan paused, then nodded again. As they walked through the narrow streets, Sarah noticed how people greeted Ayan. Some shopkeepers waved. One old tea seller gave him a free biscuit. Ayan smiled at everyone, always polite, never asked for anything. After 15 minutes, they reached an old, broken building. Stairs were cracked. Walls had writing on them. No one smiled here. Ion walked up 3 floors and stopped outside a small room. He opened the wooden door quietly. Inside was almost nothing. Just a thin mattress, a small table, and a girl sitting by the window silent. Her name was Mina. She looked about 7 years old. Her hair was tied in a messy ponytail. Her eyes stared at the sky but didn't blink much. She didn't notice Sarah. She didn't even look at Ayan. Sarah stepped inside slowly. "Is she okay?" she whispered. Ayan walked over to his sister and knelt beside her. "She doesn't talk. Not since that night." Sarah sat down carefully. "What happened that night?" she asked. But Ion didn't answer. He just gave Mina the 100 rupees Sarah had given him. "Mina," he said softly, "we can get your medicine now. Just a few more toys tomorrow." Still, Mina said nothing. She just held the teddy bear and blinked slowly. Sarah was quiet on her way back home. She had planned to cook, watch TV, rest. But something about Ion stayed in her heart. The way he stood, the way he smiled. Even when he had nothing, the way he said, "It's not for me. It's for someone who can't speak." Sarah couldn't sleep that night. She kept thinking about the little boy with the old toys and the sister who stared at the wall without speaking. The teddy bear was now on her table, and every time she looked at it, she saw Ion's soft eyes and quiet smile. The next morning, Sarah took an early bus and walked back to the street corner where she met Ion. He was already there, setting up his little box of toys again. He looked surprised when he saw her. "Miss, you came back," he said, gently placing a rubber ball beside a broken toy car. Sarah smiled. "Yes, I wanted to see how you're doing." Ion nodded politely. "Same as yesterday. Toys to sell? Sister to feed?" Sarah knelt beside the box. "Do you eat breakfast before coming?" Ion shook his head. "No, I give everything to Mina first. She gets cold. I save for her medicine." Sarah's heart ached. And you, don't you get tired? Ion gave a small smile. I can rest when Mina speaks again. Sarah stayed with him for an hour. She watched how he talked to every customer with respect, even when they ignored him. A small boy begged his father for a toy car. And when the boy dropped it and the wheel came off, Ion gave him another one for free. But that was your last car, Sarah whispered. Ion shrugged. That boy smiled. I think Mina would have smiled too if she saw him. A few people began to notice the woman sitting with the boy. Some stopped. One man bought a ball, another gave Ion 50 rupees and took nothing. Sarah realized something. Ion didn't just sell toys. He gave people something rare: kindness, peace, and a story they didn't expect. She asked him, where do you get these toys? Ion said, some are mine. Some I found. Some people throw them away. I clean them, fix them a little, then I wait. Wait for what? She asked. Ion looked at the passing cars and said, wait for someone who needs joy. Later that day Sarah followed him again. This time she brought a small lunch with her 2 pieces of bread, some fruit, and water. Ion tried to refuse. Only if Mina eats too, he said. Sarah promised she'd bring more. They reached the small broken room again. Mina was in the same place, near the window, sitting without expression. But something was different. She was holding the teddy bear from yesterday, not tightly, but gently in her lap. Sarah noticed and smiled. Mina, Sarah said softly, I brought you something. She handed her a small wind-up music box, the kind that plays soft lullabies when turned. Ion's eyes widened. Is it okay if I give it to her? Sarah nodded. Ion sat beside Mina and slowly turned the music box's key. A soft tune filled the air. Mina's eyes didn't move at first. Then slowly she blinked. Sarah gasped. Ion held his breath. Mina lifted her hand just a little and touched the music box. For the first time, there was something alive in her face. Not a smile, not words, but light. A tiny spark. Ion's hands trembled as he looked at Sarah. She heard it. She did, Sarah said, tears forming in her eyes. Maybe music reaches where words can't. Ion nodded slowly, holding the box like it was treasure. That night, Sarah couldn't stay silent anymore. She opened her phone and wrote a longer post online. There is a boy who sells broken toys to fix a broken silence. He doesn't beg, he doesn't cry, he simply waits for people to believe in kindness again. His sister hasn't spoken since tragedy entered their lives. But today, her eyes moved when a song played. She ended it with a photo of Ion handing the wind-up box to Mina. The next morning, her phone exploded with messages, hundreds of likes, then thousands. Comments from people asking, where is he? Can we help? I want to donate toys. I want to send money for the girl's medicine. Sarah was overwhelmed. She didn't give Ion's location. Not yet. She wanted to protect him, but she knew his life was about to change. When she returned to the street the next day, Ion was already there. But this time, something was different. His box of toys was full. More people stopped to talk to him. One woman gave him 500 rupees and took 2 broken toys with joy. A man offered to buy the whole box. Ion looked confused. Why are so many people here? He asked Sarah. She smiled. Because they read your story. My story, yes. I shared it online. And now the world is seeing what I saw, the boy who gives love through toys. Ion didn't know what to say. He looked down at the coins in his hand and said, maybe Mina can have her medicine now. Maybe she'll speak again. Sarah looked at him gently. You gave hope, Ion. That's the rarest toy of all. He didn't understand the full meaning, but he felt something inside, something warm, something proud. As the sun set, Ion picked up his box and said, I'll sell again tomorrow. Sarah walked beside him, and I'll be there too. But neither of them knew. Someone very far away had read the post, and that person, someone with a powerful past connection, was already on their way to find Ion. Ion woke up early the next morning, even before the sun rose. He looked at his sister Mina, still sleeping near the window, holding the music box close to her chest. Her eyes were closed but peaceful. It had been a long time since he had seen her rest like that. Ion smiled and quietly folded the thin blanket over her. He walked outside with his box of toys, which now felt lighter, even though it had more inside. That day he had 6 new toys people had given them yesterday. After hearing about him from Sarah, as he reached the street corner, he saw someone waiting. Sarah was already there, holding 2 paper bags. Good morning, she said. Ion smiled. Good morning, miss. She handed him a small breakfast bread and fruit, for you and Mina. Ion thanked her and placed the bags near his feet. He set up the toys neatly. Already, people were beginning to stop. Some took pictures, some gave money without buying anything, others just wanted to shake his hand. Ion didn't understand why, but he was polite to all of them. By noon, his box was almost empty. Then, a tall man with dark glasses and a clean black coat stepped out of a fancy white car. He looked left, then right, and then walked straight to Ion. Sarah noticed him too and felt something strange. The man looked serious but not angry. He knelt down and looked at Ion's face carefully. What is your name, boy? He asked. Ion stood up straight. Ion. The man's lips trembled slightly. Ion. Your father's name was Fahim. Ion nodded slowly, surprised. Yes, do you know him? The man nodded, his voice soft. I did. He was my best friend a long time ago. We worked together. He once saved my life during a fire in the factory. We lost touch years ago, but I never forgot him. Sarah stepped closer. Who are you? The man stood up and said, My name is Mr. Harris. I saw your post online. When I saw the boy's face, I recognized the eyes. They are just like Fahim's. I came to be sure, and now I am. I am stared at him, unsure what to say. Mr. Harris looked down and placed a hand on Ayan's shoulder. Where is your mother? Ayan lowered his eyes. She died with Papa, in the car accident. Mr. Harris closed his eyes. Hurt, and you've been alone since. Ayan nodded. With my sister. How old is she? 7. Mr. Harris looked at Sarah. Are they under anyone's care? Sarah shook her head. No. Ayan kept her hidden. He sells toys to survive. Mr. Harris was silent for a moment. Then he said, I want to help. Ayan looked up. Why? Mr. Harris smiled gently. Because your father helped me when I had nothing. Now it's my turn. That afternoon, Mr. Harris followed Ayan and Sarah back to the small room. When they entered, Mina was sitting near the window, holding the music box. Mr. Harris froze. He stepped forward slowly and whispered, Mina? She didn't look at him, but when he gently said, Your papa used to call you Minu, her head turned slightly. Ayan gasped. She hadn't responded to any name in weeks. Mr. Harris knelt beside her and softly placed a small toy elephant near her hand. Your father gave me this. I kept it all these years. Now it's yours. Mina looked down at the toy. She touched it gently. Then her lips moved. Not words, but movement. Her first sign of reaction. Ayan's eyes filled with tears. She moved again, he whispered. Sarah covered her mouth. Mr. Harris smiled deeply. She remembers that night. Mr. Harris didn't leave. He stayed and talked to Ayan about his father. He told him how Fahim loved cricket, how he laughed loudly, how proud he was when Ayan was born. Ayan listened with quiet joy. He had forgotten the sound of someone talking about his parents with love. Before leaving, Mr. Harris gave Sarah an envelope for the children's needs, he said. Food, clothes, whatever they require. Sarah opened it after he left. It had 50,000 rupees inside. Her hands shook. She looked at Ayan, who was busy feeding Mina with soft pieces of bread. He didn't even know about the money. He didn't care about that. All he cared about was that Mina had blinked, that she moved, that maybe, just maybe, her voice would return one day. Later, as they cleaned up the small room, Sarah asked Ayan, Do you want help? A better place to stay? Ayan looked at her and said, Only if Mina comes too. Of course, she said. You're together. Ayan smiled softly. Then yes, we will come. Sarah nodded. Mr. Harris wants to help more, maybe even get you into school again. Ayan looked surprised. School? Yes. You deserve to learn. Ayan, you're smart, brave, and kind. The world needs boys like you in classrooms, not streets. Ayan looked at Mina, then at the sky. He whispered, I think Mama would be happy. That night, Sarah posted again. The boy with the toys has a name, Ayan. His sister is Mina, and today, someone from their past found them someone who loved their father. There is pain in this story, but now, there is also healing. Kindness doesn't just travel, it returns. Her post reached even more people. Journalists began asking for interviews. Celebrities shared his photos. But Ayan didn't care about the fame. He just sat with Mina, winding the music box again, watching her eyes move to the sound. And in that silence, he found hope. The next morning, Ayan woke up early, as usual. But today felt different. The room was brighter. The air felt lighter. Mina was awake, holding the toy elephant Mr. Harris had given her. She didn't speak, but her eyes followed Ayan as he moved across the room. He smiled. Good morning, Mina. She blinked once. Ayan knew what that meant. It meant she heard him. It meant she was still with him. He gently handed her a small cup of warm milk. We'll go together to the toy spot today. You can sit nearby. Mina didn't respond with words, but she slowly reached out to take the cup. Ayan's heart felt full. She hadn't done that in weeks. Outside, Sarah waited with a small bag of fresh fruit and bread. Ready? She asked. Ayan nodded. Can Mina come today? Sarah looked surprised but happy. Of course. She can sit beside me while you sell. Ayan helped Mina into Sarah's car. For the first time, Mina was leaving the small room. Ayan held her hand the whole ride. When they reached the corner, where Ayan usually sold toys, things had changed. A small crowd had gathered. There was a table set up. A banner that read Help Ayan's Toy Corner fluttered in the soft wind. Sarah had arranged it quietly. A few kind people brought boxes filled with toys. Some brought food, clothes, even books. Ayan looked around, confused. What is this? He asked. Sarah smiled. People wanted to help. I just gave them a place to come. Ayan stood still, unsure. But I don't know them. You didn't know me either, Sarah said gently. But now we're friends. Ayan looked down at his old toy box. Then at the table full of toys people had brought, he picked up one and gently placed it in the middle. I'll still sell, he said. But now for others too. For kids, like me, Sarah nodded. That's beautiful. Ion. Mina sat quietly near the table, her eyes watching the children who came to see the toys. A little girl picked up a music doll and showed it to her mother. Mina blinked. Her fingers moved slightly. She reached out, almost touching the doll. Ion saw it. His heart raced. She liked that one, he whispered. Sarah nodded. She's waking up. Bit by bit. By noon, over 30 people had come. Ion spoke to everyone kindly. He told small stories about each toy, how it worked, or who might enjoy it. He never asked for money, but people always gave something. The jar on the table filled up quickly. Some even wrote notes and left them beside the toys. One said, "You are stronger than most adults." Another read, "Your sister will smile again. We believe in her." Mr. Harris arrived later that day. With 2 men in suits, he called Ion aside. "I want to show you something," he said. They walked to the next street where a small building stood. It had clean walls, windows, and a sign that read Ion and Mina's home. Ion looked up at it, shocked. "What is this?" "Your new home," Mr. Harris replied. "I bought it. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, electricity, and even a small study room. You and Mina can move in today." Ion didn't speak. His eyes filled with tears. "Why are you doing this?" "Because your father saved me," Mr. Harris said. "And because you remind me of the kind of man he was becoming. Brave, gentle, good." Ion wiped his eyes. "Will Mina be okay there? She have peace and a real bed and hope." They returned to the toy stand and shared the news with Sarah. She clapped with joy. "Ion, this is just the beginning." That evening they moved into the new home. Mina was quiet, but she didn't resist. She sat on the soft bed, looking at the curtains that danced in the wind. Ion showed her the small shelf where he placed her favorite toys. He gently turned on the music box. As the soft tune filled the room, Mina lay back on the pillow and closed her eyes, not in pain, but in comfort. Ion sat beside her, holding her hand. "We're safe now," he whispered. "I'll never let anyone hurt you again." Meanwhile, Sarah posted another update online. Today, Ion and Mina moved into a home of their own. It has walls, lights, and warmth. But most of all, it has love. Thanks to all of you, this story is becoming a miracle. Her post reached more people. A local news channel asked to interview Ion. She declined for now. "Let them settle," she replied. "Let their hearts breathe." Late that night, Ion stood on the small balcony of their new home. The stars were out. The city looked different. From here, he took a deep breath and whispered, "Thank you, Papa. I think we're going to be okay now." Just then, a soft sound came from inside the room. It was Mina's voice. Ion didn't sleep that night. He sat beside Mina, watching her breathe, listening to her soft hum that still echoed the music box's tune. Her lips had moved. She had said his name. It felt like a dream. He held her small hand and whispered again and again, "You're back, Mina. You're really back." In the morning, sunlight filled their new home. Ion gently woke Mina. She blinked, looked at him, and gave a faint smile. It wasn't full, but it was real. Ion wanted to jump with joy, but he stayed calm, brushing her hair gently. "Would you like to come with me today?" he asked. Mina nodded slowly. He dressed her carefully and gave her the music box to hold. Then they stepped out together, hand in hand, for the first time without fear. Sarah was already waiting outside. When she saw Mina standing holding Ion's hand, she gasped. "She's walking." Ion nodded proudly, and she said my name. Sarah knelt and smiled at Mina. "You're a strong girl, Mina. Welcome back." Mina looked at Sarah and gave the smallest nod. Sarah held back her tears. They reached the toy stand, which was now more like a small street shop. Ion had a new table, colorful cloth on top, and boxes of donated toys beside him. People were waiting already. Many had read the latest update. Sarah posted. Some came just to meet Ion. Some brought toys. Others brought money, food, and small gifts for Mina. One old woman gave Mina a hand-knitted scarf. Mina took it gently and nodded. Her eyes were softer now. She was slowly returning to the world. Ion stood behind the table, talking to people with a new kind of energy. "This toy is for 3 to 5 years, he said, "and this one plays sound when you press here." His voice was clearer, more confident. He wasn't just selling toys anymore. He was running something special, something full of love. Later that day, a group of kids came by. They had saved pocket money to buy toys from Ion, not because they needed toys, but because they wanted to meet the boy who gave his heart to his sister. A small boy gave Ion a letter. It said, "When I grow up, I want to be kind like you." Ion read the letter 3 times, folded it carefully, and kept it in his pocket. Mina watched all this from a small chair Sarah had brought. She didn't speak, but her eyes followed Ion wherever he went. At one point, she smiled when a little girl hugged her after buying a doll. Ion saw that smile and almost cried again. Noon, a reporter came. Sarah had agreed to one small interview, only if Mina wasn't pushed or asked to speak. The reporter, a kind young woman named Farah, spoke gently. She asked Ion simple questions. "Why did you start selling toys?" Ion looked at Mina and said, "Because she stopped smiling, and I thought maybe, if I helped others smile, she might remember how." Farah nodded, writing every word. "And now?" Ion smiled. "Now she's starting to remember." one toy at a time. The interview was short, but it was honest, pure, and powerful. That evening, the story aired on local TV. It spread fast. People shared clips of Ion saying, "If someone smiles, maybe Mina will too." Donations increased. Local businesses offered support. A school principal called Sarah the next morning and said, "We want Ion and Mina to join us. Full scholarship. Uniforms, books, everything." Sarah shared the news with Ion. His eyes lit up. "School?" he asked again. "Yes. You both deserve to learn. You've taught the world more than most adults ever do." Ion held Mina's hand. "Would you like to go to school, Mina?" She looked at him, then down at the scarf, then slowly nodded. The next few days moved fast. Mr. Haris helped get their documents ready. The principal came to meet them personally. Ion and Mina were taken to the school for a small tour. The classroom walls were colorful. The books were new. Ion touched a pencil and smiled. "It's been so long," he said. Mina stayed close to him, but she walked without fear. The teachers welcomed them warmly. One even brought a small painting kit for Mina, saying, "Sometimes colors help when words don't." Mina took the kit and held it close. By the end of the week, Ion was back at the toy stand for one last day before school began. He made a small sign, "Thank you for helping me help others." People took photos, gave hugs, and left kind notes. Ion told everyone that the stand would continue, but with new hands. He had trained 2 older street boys to run it. "They need it more now?" he said. "I have a new journey." Mina stood beside him when he said this. A girl from a local newspaper asked, "Will you miss selling toys?" Ion looked around at the faces. "The street? The box?" "No," he said. "Softly, I'll miss what it gave me hope." That night, before sleeping, Mina did something she hadn't done in a year. She opened a notebook and drew a small drawing. A boy and a girl, holding hands, standing in front of a table full of toys. Above them, a sun with a smile. Ion looked at it, speechless. "Did you draw this?" Mina nodded. "That's us," she whispered. 2 words. Ion hugged her tight. "Yes, that's us." The first day of school arrived. Ion woke up early, wearing his new uniform. It felt strange clean ironed, the shirt white like clouds, the pants stiff but neat. He turned to see Mina sitting on her bed, already dressed in her own small uniform, holding her drawing book tightly. She had drawn another picture that morning, a school with 2 small children standing in front of it. Above the building, she had drawn a smiling sun again. Ion kissed her forehead. "Ready?" Mina nodded with a small smile. They walked outside where Sarah's car waited. She had come early to take them both. "You two look amazing," she said with a big smile. Mina gave a shy wave. It was her new way of saying, "Thank you." The drive to school was quiet but full of excitement. Mina kept looking out the window, watching trees, shops, and people pass by. Ion kept glancing at her, amazed at how far they had come. At the school gate, the principal greeted them personally. "Ion, Mina, welcome to your new home of learning," he said kindly. Other children walked by, some staring, some smiling. A few had seen Ion on the news. One boy whispered to another, "That's the toy boy." Ion heard it, but didn't mind. He knew who he was now. The principal showed Mina her special classroom first. It was smaller, quieter, with soft toys, colors, and a calm teacher named Miss Fariha, who knelt beside Mina and said, "This is your safe place. No one will rush you here." Mina looked around, then walked in slowly, holding her drawing book. Ion stood at the door, worried, but Mina turned back and nodded. "Go," she whispered. "I'm okay." Ion almost cried. Again, he walked to his own classroom where students were already sitting. The teacher welcomed him. "Everyone, this is Ion. He's joining us today. Please help him feel at home." Ion sat near the window and opened his new notebook. The paper felt smooth. The pen was light. He wrote his name slowly, Ion Khan. He underlined it twice. For the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged. After school, Sarah picked them up. Mina ran to her with small, fast steps. "I painted," she said, showing a picture of flowers. Sarah hugged her. "That's beautiful." Ion shared that he had learned long division and also made a new friend named Rafi. "He sits next to me. He gave me an extra pen when mine broke." Sarah listened to both, proud like a mother. When they returned home, Mr. Haris was waiting. He brought books, a study table, and 2 school bags. "Thought these might help," he said. Ion hugged him tightly. Mina gave him her painting of flowers. "This is for you." Mr. Haris took it like it was gold. "Thank you, princess." That night, as they sat together, Ion asked, "Why do people still bring us gifts?" Sarah smiled. "Because your story touched their hearts. And people don't forget the feeling of love." Ion thought for a moment, then said, "Then maybe we should give too." "What do you mean?" Mr. Harris asked. "I want to start something," Ion said. "Something that gives toys and books to other kids like us, on the streets, in shelters, or those who lost their parents." Sarah and Mr. Haris looked at each other, surprised and proud. The next day, Ion drew a plan. With Sarah's help, they created a name, Toy of Hope. It would be a small project at first, where people could donate used toys and books, and Ion would deliver them to poor kids. He started by visiting the old street where he once sold toys. He met the 2 older boys he had trained and gave them more supplies. "These are from Toy of Hope," he said. "Keep selling. Keep smiling." He also gave toys to a girl living in a tent nearby. She hugged him tightly and said, "I never had a doll before." Ion smiled and patted her head. Word spread. Again, schools started collecting old toys. Parents reached out to Sarah, asking how they could help. A small shop even offered a space to store donations. Ion went every weekend with Mina, packing toys and labeling boxes. Mina didn't speak much, but she painted small stars on every box. She called them Hope Stars. One Saturday, a large event was held in the school hall. Toy of Hope had its first official charity day. Children from across the city came. Some brought toys, some came to receive them. Ion stood on stage, nervous. The principal introduced him. This young man gave the world more than anyone expected, and now he wants to give more. Ion stepped forward, holding the microphone. "I sold toys to help my sister smile again," he began, "but I saw something else, kids smiling when they got even a small toy. I want to give that smile to every child who feels alone." The crowd clapped. Some wiped tears. Mina stood at the front, holding her newest painting, 2 children, surrounded by toys, holding hands under a shining star. She lifted it proudly. Ion saw it and smiled wide. Weeks passed. Toy of Hope was growing. Ion and Mina had now visited 6 shelters and given away hundreds of toys and books. More schools joined in, more families sent donations, and more children received something to smile about. But even with the joy, Ion stayed humble. Every night he still sat beside Mina, helping her with her reading or watching her draw new dreams. One evening, while packing toy boxes, Ion noticed Mina drawing something different. It wasn't a school or toys this time, it was a big stage. On it stood a small boy holding a mic. Around him were hundreds of people. At the bottom of the page, she had written one word in bold, shaky letters. "Speak." Ion looked at her, confused. "Is this a story?" Mina shook her head. "A wish," she whispered. "You want to speak on stage?" Mina nodded slowly. "One day," she said. Ion felt something rise in his chest. His sister, once silent and lost, now dreamed of speaking to a crowd. "You will?" he said, "and I'll be in the front row, clapping the loudest." The next morning, Sarah visited, with exciting news. "There's a National Children's Conference happening next month," she said. "They want Ion to speak about Toy of Hope." Ion looked stunned. "Me on a stage?" Sarah nodded. "They said your story inspired thousands. They want others to hear it from you directly." Ion's hands trembled. "But I'm just a kid." "You're more than that," Mr. Harry said. "You're proof that kindness changes lives." Ion looked at Mina. She smiled and whispered, "Speak." Ion agreed. Over the next few days, he practiced every evening. He stood in front of a mirror, repeating his speech. Sarah helped him with words. Mr. Harris helped him with posture. Mina helped just by being there, smiling, encouraging, drawing little stars on his paper. The day of the event arrived. Ion wore a white shirt and black pants, his shoes polished, hair neatly combed. Mina wore a blue dress and held a small drawing rolled up in her hand. Sarah drove them to the conference hall, which was large and filled with lights, banners, and people from across the country. Inside the hall, Ion's name was called. "Please welcome Ion Khan, founder of Toy of Hope." People clapped as he walked on stage. He took a deep breath, looked at Mina in the front row, and began, "My name is Ion. I used to sell old toys on a street corner, not for myself, but for my sister. She had stopped speaking after we lost our parents. I thought maybe, if someone smiled, she might remember how." The hall was silent. Every word felt heavy, real. Then, people started helping. A kind woman named Sarah, a man who knew my father, and slowly, my sister started smiling again. "Now, I run Toy of Hope. We collect toys and books and give them to kids who have little, because I know what it feels like to have nothing." His voice shook, but he kept going. "I'm just a boy. But I learned something big. Love is the best gift, and hope is the strongest toy." The audience stood and clapped. Some had tears. Ion bowed and walked off stage. Mina ran to him, hugged him tight, and whispered, "You did it." Later that day, Mina asked Ion to come with her to a small room in the hall where children were invited to draw. She sat quietly, took out her own rolled-up drawing, and placed it on the wall. It showed Ion on stage, and beside him, me. Also speaking, she looked at him and said, "Next time, me." Ion laughed. "Deal." That evening, as they returned home, Sarah handed Ion a letter. "It's from someone important," she said. Ion opened it slowly. It was from the country's Ministry of Education. They wanted to meet him and discuss how Toy of Hope could work with schools across the nation. Ion read it twice, unsure if it was real. "This is big." Sarah nodded. "Yes, they want to fund it. Make it official. Reach every city." Ion looked at Mina. She was looking at the stars outside the window. "We started with one box," he whispered. "And now we're here." That night, Ion couldn't sleep. He walked to the balcony and looked at the sky. The stars looked closer somehow. He remembered the cold nights on the street, the hunger, the silence, the waiting. And now, they had a home. friends, a mission, a future. Mina joined him, wrapping a small blanket around his shoulders. It's cold, she whispered. He smiled. Not anymore. She leaned against him. Thank you, she said, for everything. Ion shook his head. You gave me a reason. To fight Minu without you, I'd still be lost. She looked up. We saved each other. Ion nodded slowly. Yes, we did. The next morning, news channels played clips from the speech. Headlines read, From street to stage, the boy who turned pain into purpose. Donations to Toy of Hope increased again. Ion didn't care about fame. He cared about how many more kids they could help. In the following weeks, Toy of Hope centers opened in 2 more cities. Volunteers signed up. Teachers asked for Ion to visit their classrooms, and in every place he went, Ion told the same story about a broken toy, a silent sister, and a boy who didn't give up. And always Mina sat beside him, now speaking little by little, slowly building her own voice. Ion stood in the middle of the Toy of Hope Center, watching children run around with bright smiles on their faces. Laughter filled the air. It was the grand opening of the new center in their own city, a building with bright colors, shelves full of toys, a reading corner, and a small art room for children to draw and paint their dreams. Mina sat at a small table near the window, painting stars just like she used to, but now, she also talked. Not loudly, not always in full sentences, but enough. Enough to share what she felt. Enough to say thank you. Ion walked over to her and asked, How's the painting? Mina looked up and smiled. Almost done. She held up the paper. It showed a boy and a girl on top of the world, holding toys, surrounded by other children smiling. Ion touched the corner of the drawing gently. That's beautiful. Just like you. Later that afternoon, they had a small event. Teachers, children, volunteers, and local leaders came to see the center. Sarah stood beside Ion and whispered, You did this. Ion shook his head. We did this. Mr. Harris gave a short speech saying, What started with one boy and a broken box of toys has now become a movement. This place will heal hearts. Then, Ion stepped forward to speak. He looked at the crowd, then at Mina. She nodded, giving him courage. When I was on the street, Ion began. People walked past me every day. Most didn't see me, but I saw them. I saw how some smiled, some frowned, some rushed, and some stopped. One day, one woman stopped for real. That changed everything. He glanced at Sarah, who smiled back, eyes wet. I sold toys to make my sister smile, but I ended up finding more than I ever imagined. Now, we give toys to those who need a little hope. Sometimes a small toy, a book, or a painting can remind a child that they're not alone. The room was quiet. Then, one child clapped, then another. Soon, the whole room was standing and clapping. After the event, a woman approached Ion, with a little girl hiding behind her. This is Zara, the woman said. She hasn't spoken in over a year since her father passed away. Ion knelt down and smiled at Zara. Hi, I was quiet once too. My sister didn't speak for a long time either. But one day, she hummed a song and everything changed. Zara looked at Mina, who was nearby. Mina walked over with a small teddy bear and held it out. This helped me, she said softly. Zara looked at the bear, then slowly took it. Her small fingers squeezed it, and she held it close. She didn't speak yet, but her eyes blinked with something new: curiosity, connection, maybe even the start of healing. The mother cried quietly. Thank you, she whispered. Ayah, and realized something then. It was never just about toys. It was about connection, about seeing someone, about stopping long enough to care. The boy who once waited in the cold to sell old toys had now become a bridge between broken hearts and forgotten hope. Mina joined him later on the rooftop of the center. The sun was setting, painting the sky with gold and orange. She sat beside him, her legs swinging off the edge. You remember the old room? She asked. Ion nodded. How could I forget? I used to dream of flying out of that window, she said. Far away, somewhere warm. And now? He asked. She looked around. Now I'm already there. A few days later, a large letter arrived in the mail. It was from an international foundation. They had read about Toy of Hope and wanted to award Ion and Mina with a Global Youth Award for their impact. Sarah read the letter out loud. Mina smiled. Ion looked shocked. Why us? Because you turned your pain into power, Sarah said, and you brought light where there was once darkness. The award ceremony would be in another country. It would be Mina's first time flying. She was nervous, but also excited. She began painting airplanes and stars and suitcases. Do you think I'll be okay up there? She asked. Ion held her hand. We've already flown without wings. This will be easy. The day they left, the entire Toy of Hope team came to say goodbye. Children hugged them. Volunteers waved. Mr. Harris gave Ion a small notebook. Write your next dream here, he said, because dreams don't stop. Mina gave her teddy bear to Zara before leaving. He helped me. Now he'll help you. Zara smiled and hugged her tightly. As the plane took off, Mina pressed her face to the window, eyes wide with wonder. Ion sat beside her, holding her hand. Look, he whispered. We're flying. Mina didn't speak for a moment. Then, slowly, she said, I feel free. Ion nodded. We both are. At the awards ceremony, Ion gave another speech.